Hello there. I am here with Darren Leavitt, one of our Entrepreneur Source coaches. Hi, Darren. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Love to hear that. Today, we're going to discuss one of your clients recently made a placement and was awarded a franchise from Houndstown, one of our franchise board members. But before we get into any of that, I just wanted to ask you, what were you doing before the Entrepreneur Source? And then what led you to the Entrepreneur Source and then led you to become an Entrepreneur Source coach?
I was in corporate America, VP of sales, senior director of sales in healthcare, senior living, and did it for a long time and actually liked it. But the further I got promoted into the corporate world, it just felt like the less value I was bringing, more corporate meetings, fighting with our CFO to fix our buildings and board of directors meetings, which wasn't fun to me. And the travel only increased. So travel was fun when I was 20, but having a family, I just wanted to be home, and travel was only increasing. So a little over 2.5 years ago, I literally walked away from a corporate paycheck to do what I do now and having the time of my life and doing fine financially, doing fine, better than fine, being home, better than ever, and incredible. So I got a call. I did want to do something closer to home, something that would get me out of airports and things like that. And little did I know a pandemic would hit 4 months later. That would have grounded me anyway. But still, in hindsight, it was a great decision. My company's a third of the size it was before COVID, and so yeah, it's been great. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, have you had any interest in a franchise?" I said, "Nope, not at all, but I love talking to people, so I'll talk to anybody." And I did, and my coach got me to change my mindset a little bit, or allowed me to change my mindset a little bit. And I just thought, there are other options. And so, feel normal? Did it feel like, oh, this is a no brainer? This is the greatest thing in the world? No, it was scary. I was going to walk away from a corporate paycheck. But when I thought about it after doing discovery and figuring things out and looking at different options, the option of going back and getting on a plane just was so, I didn't want to do that. And so I just thought, this is an option where I can bring value to others, and here I am. And it's the greatest thing. I absolutely love what I do.
Well, I always get invigorated talking to you because of how excited you are every single day to talk to your clients and
Oh, it's my
just
favorite part.
do what you, I know, I love it. And the way you approach everything. So we'll get into that afterwards. And also, what I love too is the fact that you've been in your client's shoes a lot of times,
Hmm.
or come from that same, whether it's that same headspace or, just that feeling of, yeah, I think you hear that story probably a lot. So, anyways, I love hearing the stories. With this client in particular, where was he starting? Let's start there. Like, where was your client starting from, and what change did you see in him to the point where he said, you know what, Houndstown is the one that I'm gonna choose to go with.
He wasn't really considering as a serious thing his own business. He was in aerospace, actually loved his job. He wasn't one of them that hated corporate America, or corporate America is the evil empire, or anything like that. He was happy. He was happy with his people, and I believe, if I remember correctly, there was some reorg and some layoffs happened and life happened. And that's kind of how he took it, is this is just something that happens. And he wasn't bitter, he wasn't angry, but he was willing to talk and he was willing to look at options, which I really think, as a TES coach, that's primarily what we do. We don't sell anything, we don't change people. All we do is we help and allow our clients, and we become mindset changers. That's what we do, and that there is another way to look at things and another way to think about things, and allow people. That word "allow" is so important to me, that we allow people to look, we allow people to figure it out, and he was open to that. That was the start, right? He wasn't saying, "Oh, this is great, I'm going to go this way, something's saving me." It wasn't that at all. He just started with the open mind to say, "Yeah, let's talk, let's look at things. Why there's not a downside." And I tell that to people all the time in my first call. The only downside of working with me is you're talking to me right now instead of doing something else, which matters. I mean, time is a thing, right? And it allowed an opportunity for him to look, and he's such a nice guy. His whole family are so nice, and they're servant type people, and he loves helping people. So he was willing to look at things, and we did. And he continued looking down the W-2 path. So we brought both to the table, and we compared and contrast, and he had interviews, and we would talk about his interviews, and does that get, we constantly went back to, does that get you to your goals, does that get you to what you and I discussed, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, a month and a half ago. And we would look at both sides of the fence, and he would just come out and just say what he felt and say what were needs of his and what he longed to do. And as he explored all the options, you could feel him gravitating, and that's what my clients do. They will gravitate. I don't have to steer them, I don't have to nudge them or push them. They will gravitate one direction or the other based on the discovery. If they do discovery, they'll get clarity. That's 100% of the time. 100% of the time, if they do discovery. If they don't get clarity, it will be because they didn't continue with discovery, right? And so he really did discovery well and just asked the right questions, looked at both, and slowly but surely he was gravitating one to business ownership. That's even an option, right? Not even Houndstown yet, but business ownership. Hey, this is a thing. This is something that we could do. And so the more he kind of looked at those opportunities, then he just zeroed in on Houndstown. They're dog lovers, he and his wife, and it just really seemed to fit. And as they envisioned things, they kept poking holes in it, asking the questions, what ifs. They kept, every time he brought a Darren, what if, I'd say, perfect. But you know what? I don't have a crystal ball. But you get to ask them that. Ask Houndstown that. What if? The beauty of what we do is this: there's no safer place than this. And so you get to ask Houndstown that question and find out the answer. It doesn't have to be a what if. That's why we do discovery, right? And so he'd say, okay, I'd write that down. He'd go and ask Houndstown, and he'd come back, he'd have his answer. And then all the way until he came to a point of clarity and said, yeah, we're going to do this. And so today they are Houndstown franchise owners and very pumped to start that new journey of their life.
I absolutely love that. And also the fact that he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't saying corporate America, horrible. I'm trying to get away from it. It's like destroyed me. It's sucking the life out of me. It was more like, okay, like things have happened, things have changed, and now I'm open to maybe talking about something else. And that's where I also see the beauty of the TES coaching and what you do is that whole word allow. It's just giving people, allowing people to have that space. And I talk about it all the time. Like I say safe space so many times, but when I hear it from you, actually putting it into practice with your clients, it's so powerful because to your and also the fact that you can work with anyone as long as they have that open mind. You can work with anyone. You don't have to only work with this very small sector of people that check off all these boxes. If someone's open to having a conversation with you, you can have that conversation and who knows where it could go.
Absolutely. Right now, currently in my portfolio, I have clients who have jobs and love their jobs.
Yeah.
I have clients who have jobs and hate their jobs. I have clients who are business owners. I have clients who don't have a job. I have clients who are retired and bored. The only common denominator is they all want to look at options. That's the only requirement. I mean, if you don't want to look, you're going to hate talking to me. you know and so and I give them that option. Some don't want to look, and that's okay. That's okay, but all of them, it's not, well, you can only talk to people without jobs. That's not true. I've gotten so many people that have had jobs that they love, but because they dared to look, they saw other options. And so really that's what we do, and there is no safer spot than to do it with a TES coach. There's really not. I don't believe there is.
I don't think so either, because to your point, let's say someone has taken kind of this plunge or whatever to take a look at options on their own. I can just see them coming up with these what if questions, what if scenarios, and they don't have that person. This is just one example, but they don't have that coach to come to and say, what if this were to happen? I'm scared about this. I feel like they would be like, you know what if this happened? You know what? Nope, too scary, not doing it. They don't have that place to say, you know what? Ask the what if question and get an answer.
Yeah. Really, the journey allows us not to have to pre qualify or disqualify before we know. That it allows us to do that because, I had a guy who was looking at a roofing business. And because of the news, because of media, because of everything, supply chain kept ringing in his head. Like, I'm not going to be able to get the materials for this business. It won't work. It just won't work. And I said, well, my favorite question to ask my clients is, do you think that, or do you know that? I would ask him, do you think it won't work, or do you know for sure it won't work? I said, but the beauty is that's not a reason to stop doing discovery. Because what if you're wrong? The beauty is you get to ask that question. You get to talk to other people who own a roofing business and say, hey, is supply chain a problem? And if you're right, then it's a win. If you're wrong, then it's a win. So you're still in the safest space. But sadly, people stop it at the question. They say it won't work when they really don't know that to be true. But that's why we do discovery. There's not even when they talk to their spouses about it, they say, Darren, my wife's really, risk averse. I say, great. There is zero risk working with me. No problem. Awesome. There's nothing. Yeah, but the cost, there's no cost working with me. In all of your wife's questions, here's the thing, she might be right, but we get to ask her questions too. And so you're still in the safest space.
Right.
So there's really not even an objection. It really gets down to, do you want to do discovery or do you not? And that's what it boils down to.
And the thing is, if you say no, I'm not open to discovery, great. Now we know. And you also know that this is a resource you can come back to, which I'm sure
Absolutely.
many of your clients do come back to,
Absolutely.
when they are ready.
Absolutely.
And it just so much opportunity. So of course we'll keep talking about this throughout, I feel, because it's just such a big part of what we do. But what was your client's experience with Houndstown? What was your experience with Houndstown? And you can weave in the collaboration and all of that, but every client's experience is different. Every client looks for different things that resonate with them, and at the end of the day they move forward with Houndstown because you said they were dog lovers, there were different things. But yeah, just can you describe a little bit about the experience of your client and yourself?
Yeah, one of the beautiful things is I have no clue the direction my clients will go, because it's not even towards what they're passionate about, because sometimes people do a business for other reasons. I had a person looking at a business because they wanted to coach high school football, which their job prevented them from doing. And so they wanted a business that's going to allow them to coach high school football. They didn't care what it was, right? And so when I usually bring possibilities, they are possibilities. I have so many people scratch their head and say, what are you thinking, Darren? What, why, why this business? And I'd say, I don't know, because we're looking at possibilities, and you're going to tell me why or why not. So that's the beauty. I don't, it's almost unfair because I do very little really. And so I say, but I'm sure looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that possibility. And so they laugh and they do it. And many times, multiple times, they say that is a cool possibility. And so I did know that they like their dogs.
Yeah.
That came up in conversation. So I showed them Houndstown and I showed them a closet business. No idea why. And he's like, closets. All right. So when he talked to them, though, he actually loved the closet business. But he's so, when he talked to Houndstown, it's like he was so intrigued by that. So he really did kind of flow towards his passion, which is a possibility.
Fine.
I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I gave him something else, right?
Yeah.
And so, and he kept being pulled there, and he even told the closet team, he said, "Hey, it's top notch model. They just don't want to do closets." So that was part of his discovery. and he kept gravitating towards Houndstown. He also looked at other animal businesses, which they can look at stuff outside of my portfolio. The only thing I ask is that they bring it to the table and let's discuss it. That's if they look at something or they see something, I say, let's bring it to the table because that plays in here. Let's talk about that path versus the ones you're looking at. And so when he looked at Houndstown, the thing that he really liked about it versus other animal businesses, from his understanding, was that there are a lot of things out there that can serve the community, right? They can provide animal stuff for the community. They think of the community's needs. But he really felt that Houndstown not only served the community, but served the dog. And that's what really lit a fire under him. He really felt that they were really into taking care of animals and taking care of dogs. And not that the others don't, but he just felt a little extra push to dog comes first. And then yes, it's a resource for the community like all others, but really dogs comes first. And that really panned out as they showed different opportunities for rescue dogs and adoption and things like that. So that's kind of what really drew him in even more, that he was really impressed with Houndstown.
And to your point, it could have been, there's a lot of options even within that space.
Right.
But he was able to do the discovery around it. And like you said, they always gravitate towards one or the other. There's no need to push at the end of the day. Yeah, the Houndstown. How was working with the team as well on that?
Yeah, Rob Thomas was great. Very informative. If he couldn't get to you right away, because he's got other people too and other clients, he always did, whether by text or both, for myself as a coach and for Bob as the client. He got his questions answered, and Bob and most of my all of my clients, when my favorite piece of what I do when they ask me a question, especially about a business, uh, I love saying, I got no clue. I got nothing, man. So, um, and I said, but you get to find that out. And so, sure enough, he would email Rob, and Rob was always responsive and got him his answers. And so we would tag team and we would talk to each other every meeting he had with my client. Rob reached out to me, and I did also. When I met with Bob, then I would reach out to Rob and say, hey, we talked yesterday, everything's great, they're looking forward to the next step. So more importantly, the collaboration and the working together to meet the client's goals was very nice, and they did a great job.
Glad to hear it. And the collaboration, like you said, the back and forth, the two-way street. It's just funny when you see all the pieces of the puzzle come together so nicely. It
Yeah.
just everything kind of clicks. So, you start with your client. Okay, they start and they have to have an open mind to even start having the conversation.
Right.
Then once you have the conversation, you're setting it up as it's the safe space, it's discovery. Like you say you don't do a lot. Listen, Darren, without you there wouldn't be anything else. So give yourself some credit. But it's you're laying the groundwork, because without the groundwork the client's never even going to be prepared to go into
Sure.
discovery, or they're going to go into discovery just thinking kind of with that like check the box mentality or the disqualify pre-qualify type of mentality. So
Right.
you lay the groundwork, and then once you introduce possibilities, I feel like that's when it clicks in with, okay, now client experience. What do they feel about, who they're talking? Now you're introducing a whole nother kind of team. It's not just you and the client now, there's other
Right.
people involved. And then the collaboration clicks in. And once you have that, then it's like all the pieces work so well together. So it's like, it's a beautiful thing. And I don't know if you have anything else to say on kind of that subject, but I guess my question would be, if you were to say something to other coaches or to franchisors who work with the TES coaches and the TES clients, what would you say around experience, around collaboration, how that works, the importance of it, your take on it?
It's incredibly important because it's not just what our next move is in our career that we qualify or disqualify things all the time in our minds.
Hmm.
Even as TES coaches, we have to be careful not to qualify or disqualify. We have to be careful not to think we know what our client, even our client, is thinking. Our clients, not only do different clients change and are different, but one client changes from one day to the next. So
Right.
we have to be prepared to listen to what comes out. Again, allow them to just bring it, tell their story, tell their doubts, tell how they're thinking differently, so that if we listen hard and we try to understand what they're saying, if we don't, we ask them. Do not just take it for granted. There are so many different clients who, when they're really quick at first, oh, this one's going to go all the way to the end, and then they fizzle just as fast, right? Or this one's taken a while, and they rescheduled, and our heads tries to put them in a category. They're rescheduling. They rescheduled twice. That means they're never going to do it. Not true. When my coach got a hold of me, when I was looking, I no showed him. So I just no show. Now I didn't do it on purpose. It's just because I'm so disorganized. It was a Eastern Central Time thing, but I no showed him. And if he would have taken that and said, "Oh, no show, he's not interested," why think that? What, you don't know the story. You don't know what's going on. They have lives, they have things that happen. And when you, here comes the word again, when you allow them to work through this situation, usually because it's beautiful when you open a door and you allow them to walk through it versus trying to get them, talk them into, chase them, hey, come through this door. That's what sales is. And that's what I had to intentionally not use when I decided to own my own business. And so when you allow them to walk through it, and they do, it's extremely gratifying, and mostly for them. Um, and so for us as coaches, and I have to remember too, don't disqualify because of what you think they're thinking, because you got no clue. You can't read their mind. You don't make a story out of it. Some coaches will spend, did I do something wrong? Was it something I said? And you start beating yourself up. I don't know why, and that's okay. I don't know why they didn't answer their phone today. And but when they contact me, or if we get together, they'll tell me. And so really not ourselves pre-qualifying or disqualifying things either, because we really aren't mind readers. No matter how much we think we are, we really don't know either. So we ask, just like our clients do with the Zors that they're talking to.
Love. Yeah. And actually, I mean, I'm like, wow, a lot of takeaways there just in general in working with people. Like, you don't automatically try to put, and it's just so natural to try to put someone
Yeah,
in a box and try to
yeah,
do that. But I think it goes back to, I mean, we always talk about what's possible, and we talk about, the 95% of clients who go into something that they never thought of, they would
right.
never have looked at it, they would have prematurely dismissed it. And we say it over and over, but it's so true. And it's because you, as the coach, and of course the franchisor has to do that as well, is give them that space and meet them where they're at. And day to day, it can change, but you're working with someone through all those
Yeah,
different pieces.
yeah, and I think I need to add this too, because
Yep.
there's a way that it to where you can keep posture, to where you can kind of help facilitate and help guide. It's
Mm.
not haphazard. It's not, well, the client does whatever they want, and if they call off 4 times in a row or whatever, there is a
Right.
point that I would ask my client, hey, just checking in here, are you still willing to do discovery? Because if they're not willing to do discovery, then yeah, you can say, okay, let's pause, let's touch base in a month. So it's not like you just leave it completely open. There is
Right.
some guiding and some direction that we do as coaches. It's not just, oh well, they'll come to me. They've got to have, you've got to allow them. Allowing them doesn't mean that it's haphazard. It doesn't
Yep.
mean that you're just at their every whim. You
Yeah.
know, if my client is willing to do discovery, then we'll walk together. If they're not willing to do discovery, or if I see signs that that's waning, or they don't want to do discovery anymore, then it warrants a meeting, and I'll ask them the questions.
Yeah.
If they're willing to, and sometimes it's, it's not a good time to do discovery, and that's okay.
Right. but still a safe space. It's not just,
Absolutely.
you know what, they blew me off 2 times, cross them off the list, you're
Right.
dead to me.
Right. Right.
It's still giving them that chance and leaving the door open. If they,
Right.
again, if they want to come back and walk through it, great. Um, and if not, also great.
Yeah.
So when you look at the next 6 months, the next stretch of time with the entrepreneur source, with your clients, what gets you excited more so than you already are?
If you talk macro and you
Mm.
talk from 30,000 feet, it seems redundant, right? You wake up, you talk to people all day long. But when you get granular and you get deep into it, there are so many incredible stories and there are so many incredible people. And each day when in from one call to the very next is completely different, and different emotions, different thoughts, different obstacles, different things that you work together through, different things that you collaborate about. It's all different. It's not redundant. And so every day when you get up and you see the different people that you get to talk to, it's just it's unbelievable. I don't know about business development is not an issue in this business. I mean, in fact, I've got to be careful that I not become as busy as I was at corporate, but business development, there are people that want to talk, and it's an opportunity to figure something out. And my client this morning, before getting on with you, she was telling me about what she loves to do, and she likes strategic planning. She likes to break things down, and she owns her own business, and she's just looking, and she's looking for something, and she likes to break it down to bare bones and then figure out how to solve the problem and find a way through. And I'm like getting all pumped and saying, that's what I do. That's what I do. And I couldn't wait. I said, let me tell you exactly what I do. And then I got to tell her that we take it bare bones and learn about you, and then we open the doors and just look at possibilities, and you get to figure out and piece together the solution to get you to your goals. That's basically what I do, and it just creates an opportunity to where, and everybody's story is different, and everybody's obstacles are different, and everybody's pathways are different, and everybody has a different spouse, and everybody has, it's just all, or kids or no kids, or moving, or a trauma in their life, or it's all there, and we're just piecing together what tomorrow might look like, and that's all we do. And it's actually, I had one lady say, Darren, I think I need to pump the brakes. That people always say that I need to pump the brakes, I need to pause, and I said, no problem, but let me ask you a couple questions first. One, what causes you to think that you need to stop discovery? And she said, well, I've just got so many things in my life. My former employer, there's litigation because they owe me money, the kids, everything's busy, which is true any day. Right. And I said, well, let me just ask you this, and you just be honest with me, and we'll, pause it, and we'll set it out a month or two later. We'll do whatever you want to do. But answer me this question first. In your stress of the day, this really should, and tell me if I'm doing it wrong, this should be the safe space. Talking to me should be your escape from all that, because there's no bad thing that's going to happen. There's no stress. You're simply looking at things that you haven't looked at before. You get to escape the kids for a little bit. You get to escape those people that owe you money for a little bit. You don't have to talk to the lawyer. You don't have to, this is your escape from that, and it gives you information. So we can stop if you want, but I think you need the stress reliever of talking to me. And so that's going to give you the opportunity to really not only escape life as it is, but really get value in learning different options for when life settles down. And she said, you're absolutely right. She said, why would I give this up? And so she continued, and she placed, and now owns her own business. And so it really,
Hmm.
there is not an obstacle that somebody can give me if they want to do discovery of the reason not to. I just don't believe there is. Anything that they'll bring up, I'll say, great, you'll find that out in discovery.
Right.
Things cost too much. Great, you'll find that out in discovery. things are businesses don't last. Great. You'll find that out in discovery. So there's not a reason, I'm risk averse, no risk in doing discovery.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't have enough money. It doesn't cost anything to do discovery. There just isn't one. So it's just
Right.
whether you want to or not.
And that in and of itself, I just in general, like as humans, we put all this pressure on ourselves to do XYZ,
Yep.
accomplish XYZ, especially when you're working with clients to say, like, I need them to get to a point of, and we'd probably say, like, I need them to make a decision. But really, when you take it all back and you're just saying, there's this, it's discovery. It's not this pressure. It takes the pressure off the coach, the pressure off the client. Like, it's just about learning and there's no downside, like you said. So why not? And there's no need to make, like, at the end of the day, you do the discovery, you come to a point of clarity, regardless of what that is. Point of clarity is, well, I would say, I don't know from your perspective, but point of clarity is where you want to get to. It doesn't really matter what the point of clarity is.
Right. No, absolutely. And each step is a point of clarity, and
Mm,
so we do like little mini celebrations
yeah.
through the
Yep.
journey. So from the first phone call, when they say, you know what, I'm intrigued, like this morning, I'm intrigued. I think we need to have another call. I'm like, do you know what you just did? That that is so. Do you know? And I don't know what the specific statistic is. Do you know that 75% of Americans want to do something different, but they don't do what you're doing right now by scheduling another call? You're amazing, and that is awesome. And we got to celebrate that. You got to tell people you're making a difference. You're deciding to allow yourself to look at options. That is huge. So we do different points of clarity along,
Mm,
and then when they get to the point to where we really figure out their goals, needs, and expectations and what they want, and where they're heading, and what they see a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, then it's like, all right, we understand this now. You ready to look at options? You're ready to look at possibilities. You're ready to look at different pathways, even if they're pathways that you've never considered before, to see which vehicle is going to get you there. And when they say yes, then it's another celebration. I'm like, oh my word. Do you understand what do you understand that most people don't do what you're about to do?
right.
And that's
Right.
huge. That is, you're already, and I tell them all the time, I use this phrase, I say, you're already ahead of the curve just because you want to look at options and or possibilities and look at different things that can get you to your goals. That's huge. And so we do another celebration, and
Yeah.
then when they come to a point of clarity of which vehicle it's going to be, regardless of what it is, we celebrate, and so um, the only time that I don't is if they go and they halt it because they're disqualifying or pre-qualifying. um, then it's like, if they haven't come to a conclusion because they still have questions but they don't want to ask anymore, at that point I just say, hey, this is your story, and it's either yes, no, or not now. And
Yeah.
so when you want to continue discovery, when you get to the point to where you say, you know what, I really should get those questions answered, let me know, and we'll get your questions answered.
Yeah, there's just lots of things to be excited about,
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
And so, wrapping it up here, I'll let you, is there anything, whether it's an aha moment that you want to share or just a great story? I mean, you shared some great stories here just of different examples of clients at different places of discovery and different backgrounds, and great, like, just awesome to hear. But yeah, is there anything you want to kind of just leave us with here? Last thoughts.
Probably it just gets bigger in terms of the power of asking questions. As a TES coach, as a client, in anything in life, I think sometimes we come up with an answer too soon, and it warrants asking another question. If all of your questions are answered, and you know that there's no answer that's going to change the trajectory of your journey, then great. But if there is something that could change that, if there is something that, if this were to be the case, then it warrants asking another question. And if you don't ask the question and if you don't get the answers, you're left to your own devices in your head, which could be incorrect. And so that's where I sound like a broken record, but it's really why we do discovery. We don't do discovery to make person get a job. We don't do discovery to make a business owner. We don't do discovery to cover our agenda. We do discovery so each of us can ask the question and get the answer, so that I'm not left to my own devices of just thinking what I think is true when it might not be, right? And that's huge in every aspect of life. Is we're so accustomed to coming up with our own conclusion. The biggest thing I fear is the conclusion I have isn't the correct one. And that's what discovery allows us to figure out.
I can't say it any better myself, so I'm going to leave it there. But thank you so much, Darren, for
You
sharing
bet.
your experiences, your clients' experience, and just giving a lot of color to what it is that you do and what it is that we do at the Entrepreneur Source.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. No worries. Thanks so much for your time, Mel. Always appreciate it.
Absolutely.